You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
X-Men. Get it!
Ho, 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 holiday travelers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Jingle Adam.
I don't know, Scary Ghost Story Zach?
Sure, yeah. Whatever you
People
want to be. Zach Claus, Santa Claus.
People online made fun of, like, there will be scary ghost stories. Yeah, there will be. It's the most popular Christmas. It's like the Jesus one, and then it's the one with scary ghosts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It really is one, too.
I mean, it seems like a time-honored tradition. I don't understand why we're ignoring that Halloween-y part of the holiday. It's
not
right
that
there in the song.
Not that the Winter Warlock is a ghost, but when my son watched Santa Claus is Coming to Town recently, it was my 6-year-old. He was like, I do not like this movie. That man is scary. And I'm like, buddy, I know this kid, just to be clear, this kid is a horror aficionado at 6 years old, which is concerning.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A little concerning.
Yeah.
Making it work.
Okay.
He likes scary things. And he was like, oh, the Winter Warlock's too scary. It's like, for you? For you? Also, the Winter Warlock, a real forgotten part of the Santa Claus legend. Like, we're just like, that was a miss, Ralph Baskin.
It depends on which one gets like played the most, you know. Sometimes they just fade into obscurity. I don't know. But
yeah. Not the addition to the canon that everyone wanted.
No, and maybe we have some things this week that should be added to the X-Men Christmas canon, and maybe some things that shouldn't. I don't know. But we are talking about X-Men Christmas and the holiday stories this week on the show.
And Adam, what are we on? 8 years of Christmas episodes?
Yeah, I guess this would have to be the 8th one, I guess. So we're kind of running on fumes here. We're running on reindeer glitter at this point. What do they call that stuff that you put in the front yard for reindeer crunch? Or
wait, hold on, go back. What are you talking about?
Oh, it's like a craft thing. Like you sprinkle like something in the lawn so that the reindeer come and eat it or something like that. I know I'm not making this up. This is like a real thing, you know. You never heard of this before?
But what? No. 2 adults are doing this?
No, it's like for kids. Reindeer.
Listen, there's enough. I'm gonna get on my grumpy old man high horse. There is enough Christmas magic around the holidays for Santa Claus existing and giving children all of the things that they want. We don't need to keep adding magical elements to the holidays, people. We don't need elves on shelves. We don't need reindeer glitter crafts in the front yard. I'm saying this as a parent. There's already enough pressure on everyone doing everything around Christmas. Maybe have one magical thing.
Yeah. Like,
do not try and min-max your children's Christmas experience.
When Elf on the Shelf got added to people's lives, I mean, that's just hell on earth. I don't know who thought that up, but they shouldn't have.
There's a generation of people. I love the blowback to Elf on the Shelf because it snuck up on me because I was too old for it when it became a thing.
Yeah.
So it's not part of my Christmas tradition. Oh. And my kids keep asking, and I'm like, no,
don't know what you're talking about.
We're not doing
coming
that
in this house.
We're not doing that, folks. It just seems like so much work.
It really does. And it is.
One night a year, I put in a lot of the extra effort. We do special. I want to make sure. You know what? That's the sign that I was on Twitter for too long because my first reaction was I need to make sure and get ahead of the news cycle that people think I'm a bad father and give my bona fides.
Elf on the Shelf.
This is a regular human experience. I do not need to be defensive of being like, I put a lot of effort into Christmas. And then like, there's 24 other days that I can't put the same amount into.
Yeah. That's because
much like
regular days.
They are regular days. Well, they're the high holy days of Advent. If you're really talking
You're into
about
that
it.
kind of thing.
I was for quite some time. My grandmother had one of the candle rings that you
Yeah.
would light every week for
Oh yeah.
that.
We
And
had that. We had that growing up.
that was not part of my specific dogma, so I was very confused.
Oh
Uh, it's okay.
yeah.
Regardless, much like how not everyone can put all of the effort into the world into every day of Christmas, not every creator can put all the effort into the world into every X-Men Christmas story.
That is true. We do have 3 stories of varying quality this week that we have selected, but these are our selections. But if you would like us to base an episode around your selections, listener, you do have to head over to patreon.com/battle of the atom and throw $5 measly, probably a pittance compared to what you have spent on presents for family and friends, like you should, if you have the means, and you could get a present for yourself, right?
Adam, I just want to be so clear on
Yeah.
the logic that you just threw down here is
Yeah.
that you are trying to guilt our audience, our great loving
Oh
third most
yeah.
popular X-Men podcast audience, into
Yes.
saying, well, you know your friends and family that you already spent money on. Well,
Yep.
who else is your friends? That's Zach and Adam who live in your phone.
No, your friend is yourself, who you want to do something nice for. You want to give a gift to yourself. You want to
Because
have
that really is. Thank you, Adam, because that really is the reason for the season.
to give things to yourself.
To give yourself gifts. I agree. I see. Here's my problem with giving myself gifts, and we're going to get to the comics, I promise you guys. But believe me, you're not losing out on content here. There were a lot of comics that I wanted that were they were releasing in December or January.
Yeah.
So I was like, I could pre-order these things and just have them shipped to my house, and then that's a little Christmas gift for me. So I get to read Fool's Night tonight. It's great. I got to read the most recent Zach Thompson book, Cemetery Kids Don't Die, recently, because I got it sent to myself for my own Christmas present.
Treat yourself.
Many Christmas presents, and you could put us on your wish list for next year. Next year, folks, if you've got a wish list, why don't you put supporting Battle of the Atom for a year on that?
Sure,
that would be fun.
Yeah.
Or
New Year's
don't.
resolution.
I don't know.
Get an episode.
But if you do that,
that's all I'm saying.
We'll bespoke episode, coins, coffers, all the stuff that we say every single week. You do that. And by the way, love our patrons. Y'all are great. You're the best. Truly.
Yes.
Merry happy to all of you. Adam.
Yo.
What's the first story we're talking about this
week? All right, I think we should start with the most complex of these stories, which is a Claremont joint that you remembered does take place at least partially at Christmas, because like we said, we are running on those reindeer fumes. This is Uncanny X-Men 192. This is a Chris Claremont, John Romita Jr., Dan Green joint with at least I think at least one page inked by Steve Leialoha.
Oh, there's a bit of that Leialoha in there.
Yeah, Glynis Wine on colors and
a little Loa, if you will.
When you say we are like a little light on content, man, this one issue is a pretty epic collection of different stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot happening here. So first and foremost, this is during the weird era where Nightcrawler is running the team, and he is not happy about it. Because Storm has lost her powers. Colossus, Nightcrawler, and Rogue are doing like a Danger Room cold open. Colossus thinks Nightcrawler, they're playing hide and seek. Colossus thinks Nightcrawler is hiding under this bizarre giant handled piece of concrete in the yard.
I was very confused what he is pulling out of the earth. He's pulling
looks like
handle.
A bath plug, right?
Yeah. And then
it looks like the plug that's holding up all of the evil in the world on the island from Lost.
But it's just dirt? Like, I didn't understand that.
Not the best visual storytelling in John Romita Jr.'s career.
Well, honestly, I think John Romita's, other than that, that's a weird detail, but like, I love this Colossus costume that he's wearing. This is the
the one where my 1-year-old saw me reading this and said, "Ho ho, ho ho." That's ho ho. And I said, nope, that's Colossus. You don't know him yet. You're going to know too much about him.
Yeah,
It's red one it's his very Soviet costume.
Yeah,
Not
he's
the
got
proletarian, but his other very Soviet costume.
Yeah, so Nightcrawler is handily defeating Rogue and Colossus here, but is also challenging Rogue to see if she can access her Carol Danvers precog abilities, and Rogue really does knock Nightcrawler for a loop, and his response when she rescues him is basically to try and lay a smooch on her, which Rogue is not happy about, and Nightcrawler's like, oh geez, I really messed up.
Nightcrawler's doing Nightcrawler things, and Rogue's doing Rogue things.
Yes.
And yes, is it weird that they're brother and sister? Not really, because he got thrown off a waterfall, and she was adopted at best. More, she hung out with his moms, is what really happened.
And neither of them know any of this information, and Claremont probably hasn't figured it out yet either. But
Claremont has not even. Well, no, Claremont actually would have had to know because Rogue's stuff was already set. Nightcrawler's stuff was mostly already set. Now that being said, you think a little incest is going to stop Kurt Wagner? You think a little bit of kissing his sister is going to get in the way of Kurt Wagner? Love that man so much.
Yeah.
To any Kurt Wagner superfans who may or may not be listening to this podcast, either here or in a different room, I am sorry.
We are also getting some really fun continuity ties to different things. So Kitty and Wolverine have to come back from the Wolverine and Kitty Pride miniseries. So Professor X, Storm, Ileana, Rachel are all waiting at the airport for them to come back, and Lockheed hiding in a
little box.
And we also get in the middle of this a Days of Future Past scene.
Yeah, Rachel has a PTSD flash
forward,
where she's talking about like when Kitty sent her back into the past, which we'll get more and more, or I guess Kate in this case, but we'll get more and more of that in the future with Rachel's character on what that was like, doing the Nimrod thing. You also get a lot about Rachel and Kitty loving each other in this. And you know what? Again, there's some people who are like, well, that's weird because she describes her as like almost a mother to her in the future, and now she's not. And I'm like, yeah, man, I don't know what to tell you. Freud had a lot of bad ideas, but he also had some interesting concepts. Like, it's just, is it weird? Yeah, I don't know. What do you want me to do about it? But it's very clear that they have intimate feelings for one another.
Yes, it's also revealed.
Oh, and now they're both lesbians in comics, like officially now. So it's like we're all good with this.
It's also revealed that Kitty knows who Rachel is because of her experience in Days of Future Past, which is interesting.
Wait, hold on. How would that have worked? I was thinking about this earlier because I was like, wait, no. Kitty didn't go into the future. Kitty came from the future Kate came into Kitty's body.
Right.
Did Kitty retain those memories?
It does appear so from the end of this scene because Rachel says...
From this one panel and that's it?
I guess. Yeah. Anyway.
Now Claremont never changed.
Yeah, we're only a couple of pages in. We haven't even gotten to the fact that Colossus, Nightcrawler, and Rogue are about to go up against another crossbook character villain, which is the Magus.
Listen, I understand people don't like Warlocks sometimes. And I wouldn't even argue that those people are wrong on occasion. Because he can be super annoying to read. That said, I don't care for the Magus. The Magus is worse. Like, Warlock's weird Freudian thing with his dad, like, it's worse. And this is actually the first time we see the Magus, like, outside of, like, Warlock's. Like, this is the first time we see the Magus as a real character.
And it's wild seeing this because you get a chance to really see John Romita Jr. and Dan Green interpreting the artwork of Bill Sienkiewicz, which is fascinating because they're doing some really interesting things that, just the face of the Magus is a lot more scribbly then you might
Yes.
expect John Romita Jr. to draw these things. And I gotta say, the two of them do a pretty good job of emulating the Warlock Technarchy skin that Sienkiewicz designed. There's even
It's
some eyeball things that are happening here that like he's clearly pulling from what Bill did. And it's interesting.
it is very much Ramita in green taking the spirit of Sienkiewicz's design and interpreting it into their style,
Mhm.
which is, I think, really cool. It is echoing what Ramita would later do with stuff like his Mephisto redesign
Mhm.
in the Innocenti and John Romita Jr. Daredevil run, which
Yeah.
it is cool to see it. I like seeing Ramita stretch and try new things, especially this young in his career. Uh, it's
Oh,
cool. I would love for him to get even more experimental nowadays than he is. Like give him some wild stuff to draw.
mhm. Yeah, I absolutely loved the art in this issue. I think that, some of the facial work that he's doing, I don't know. It's something I take for granted is how much of an influence John Romita Jr. is on me as an artist, like when I draw.
I
And I
see
was
that.
looking at this issue going, oh God, some of this stuff is like really close to like what I like to do when I draw things.
There is a not insignificant amount of Ramita in your stuff. I think I tend to think of your art as more clean lined than Ramita's. Like it's also giving some of the Chris Somney's the wrong name for your specific influences, but like some of the same people that Somney's influenced by,
Mhm.
like that same style mixed with like Ramita's more blocky, angular. So I think
Yeah.
there's a
I
lot of
don't know.
that. There's a little bit. Adam, I'm gonna say there's a little
Mm.
bit of like '90s Frank Miller in your art.
Okay. Hey, I mean, I'll take that. I
Listen,
remember reading a lot of that. So,
like if you told me you read some Sin City, I'd be like, okay, that makes
oh,
sense.
I read Sin City way too young. Um,
I feel like
yeah,
that's the right way to do it. Because if you
yeah.
read it way too old, you're like, Frank,
Actually, that's a funny
calm down.
Christmas story. Is the year that I got my grandmother to buy me the hardcover of Electra Lives Again, and she was like, "Should Adam really be reading this at this young, tender age?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, I should."
The opposite side of that, this is the flip coin of that.
Mhm.
I was such a young, sheltered, good boy for quite
Yes,
some time
yeah,
that my grandmother asked me if she should buy my cousin the CD that she wanted for Christmas, which was a copy of Green Day's American Idiot.
nice.
And I said that that would be inappropriate for her.
Oh, Zach, you narked out on him. That's
I
terrible.
did. It's really bad. Now, I want to be clear. I don't like Green Day to this day for
Mhm.
completely different reasons. Mostly, I think their music is derivative and not very good. And I think it's weird to call yourself a giant punk band and like try and be very anti-establishment when you have a Broadway musical. Like I
I-
feel like those are
Fair,
at
fair.
those are at such conflicting ethoses that I can't deal with the two.
Yeah. So, despite our personal feelings about Green Day post Dookie, um,
I'm counting Dookie. Dookie is the kind of. Here's why I know Dookie is not a good album. It's because
what?
when I didn't know how to play guitar, I could play every song on Dookie.
Okay, but okay. Listen, we're not doing this right now. They fight the Magus. The Magus is basically like, "Hey, these guys are brave. I guess I'll leave them alone," which is really dumb. And he becomes a guy. He like takes the form of a guy and gets
That's
away.
after they do a fight. They do a fight
They
first.
do a fight. Yep.
Rogue absorbs the Magus, which she's like, this is they have a we're both absorbing people, so we're gonna each other.
Hmm.
And anyway, Magus does become just a dude.
It is really fun to see John Romita draw Rogue like with the covered in the Technarchy. It's neat, you know.
It's awesome looking.
And then we get this very, very bleak. This is why I did not want to end with this story. We get probably one of the bleakest endings to an X-Men comic ever, which is that we flash forward some months later to Charles Xavier having been teaching at Columbia University and wishing his students, well for the winter
Merry
holiday,
Christmas.
Merry Christmas, and we get a hate crime.
Yeah, Charles Xavier, over 2.5 pages, gets beaten by a faceless mob, has a brick thrown at his head,
Mm-hmm.
and is just completely and utterly left for dead. I know the visuals that you're putting in your head, and I want to be very clear because it makes the story slightly less bleak. This is when Charles Xavier had the alien clone body, so he was walking around on his own 2 legs at the time. They are not beating up a wheelchair bound person.
No, but at the same
I'm not saying
time,
it's good. I'm just saying, like, that would be worse visually in the comic. That would read so much worse.
well, what makes it even darker is that as he's like generally probing their minds and trying to freeze them with his telepathy, some of them are his students. So he's not just being attacked by strangers, he's also being attacked by people who have gotten used to what his politics are from the classroom and are attacking him because of it. And
Because
man,
he's
this is
supporting mutants. Remember, Charles Xavier is not out as a mutant at this point.
right.
He's
And
just one of
yet,
the leading advocates for mutant rights.
yeah, and yet as he's being attacked, some of the attackers are realizing they've been affected by his powers and are thinking like maybe he is a mutant. So this issue ends with him laying in a pool of blood and what turns out to be a Morlock dragging him into the alley, blood everywhere, and a card flipping open with his students' signatures, peace on earth, goodwill to men. Like, wow, it's heavy.
Yeah, I mean, like that part sucks. Like,
It's
to
beautifully
read.
drawn, beautifully.
Very, very well told.
Mm-hmm.
But what a bummer ending. Because this isn't a Christmas comic until it flashes forward to make sure this happens on Christmas, so it's even more tragic.
Yes. Yeah.
So that Chris Claremont can do the peace on earth, goodwill towards men thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yes.
the only reason this takes place at Christmas. So that Charles Xavier can get hate crimed and then have it say peace on earth, goodwill towards men.
And I was
That's
just
a choice.
I was just reminded again because we just did that rogue centric issue not that long ago, which was before Life Death. We covered that like an episode or two ago.
In the recent past.
Yeah, and just how much Claremont is able to successfully pack into an issue, and it works. I mean, the Magus stuff is a little bit weak, but it still all ties together with the rest of the writing and the universe that he's creating. So I really enjoyed this issue.
I mean, listen, this is a Chris Claremont comic. I do think that this is in a fallow period for Claremont X-Men. Like, I feel like the chunk between Life Death and Mutant Massacre
Mm-hmm.
tends to be one of the weaker portions of Chris Claremont's run. Like, it's very clear that he needed Mutant Massacre because he needed a new direction for things because he was getting a little bored.
Mm-hmm.
Even if there are very good individual issues through there is no focus and less direction in those chunks of issues. But listen, it's still Chris Claremont X-Men from the 80s with John Romita Jr. drawing it. Like, what do you want?
This is X-Men. This is what I want out of X-Men. So
you've been listening to this podcast for how many years? You know what we're going to say. It's good.
It is good.
It's good.
All right, we should try and rank it on our big old list, Zach.
So here's the thing about big old lists. We're looking at every X-Men story ever and letting you know which ones are pretty little presents wrapped up nice under the tree and which ones are lumps of coal. And we're ranking them on that scale. With the prettiest little present being number 1, the House of X, the Powers of 10. In the 978th, the coaliest of all coals, it's the X-Men comic 2099 World of Tomorrow. And then there's a bunch of stuff in between. Let's go with 300 is Hellions Funny Games. Number 600 is Monet Vampire Hunter. And 900 is the Peter Milligan Legion series.
Oh, that's bad. We have the issue that comes after this at 195, and that is the 100th issue of the new X-Men era, right? I don't
195 is better.
Yeah, I don't think this is that good. However, I do think this is probably a 200s story. At 300, we do have that Hellions arc Funny Games, and we mentioned Kitty Pryde and Wolverine, which we were just talking about.
This is better than Kitty Pryde and Wolverine,
and that's at 296.
It is near that level. We are in the right ballpark. Like, this is not better than 265 Amazing Spider-Man 92, which is the one where he teams up with Iceman and J. Jonah Jameson, talks about democracy and the power of the press.
Yes, I would put it ahead of the classic X-Men 35 backup paper, not paper, at 268.
How does it no, I was about to say it, and then I started saying it, and it's wrong. It compares poorly to Power Pack 19, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, the Thanksgiving episode. That is so good, and I love it.
I would give the edge to Power Pack 19. So right below that is Uncanny X-Force 24, which, what is that?
That's the one where Iceman from Age of Apocalypse gets murder killed.
Oh, yeah. I like this better.
That was pretty good.
It's good, but I like this better.
Yeah, listen, there's a reason it's on that list, because it's a great standalone one-shot, but I think overall this is a little bit stronger. So that's our new 267.
So from here on, we are digging back into some holiday specials. And the next story we're going to do is from something called the Marvel Digital Holiday Special #1. I believe there were 2 of these.
So wait, are you telling me this is one of those comics they did where it would slightly change every time you moved the panel, and it had to be panel by panel, and sometimes characters would pop into the panels and pop out of the panels?
It's an interesting thing to look back at, because it's...
Or wait, is this one of the vertical scroll comics that they're doing, or what is this?
I don't think it's vertical scroll, because it's widescreen. I think it's formatted for...
I'm making jokes about all the different ways Marvel's tried to do digital comics in the past.
No, but
this was just something they put on their website.
Yeah. It's still kind of formatted like a regular comic, but it does seem at times like it's meant to be looked at on a laptop screen, right? Like,
sometimes.
It definitely seems to be trying to take advantage of that.
This is from 2008.
Yes.
And there's a lot of stories in here. Before we get into the X-Men story, actually, let's just get into the X-Men story. It's fine.
Okay.
The X-Men story is called If Fates Allow. It's by Jim McCain with pencils by Todd Knock.
Mm-hmm. Chris Sotomayor on colors.
The X-Men are in San Francisco, and Storm is talking about how, well, I'll go wherever the X-Men go. And right now they are in San Francisco, which I want to quote Storm here because I thought this was an interesting choice.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Recently, mutant kind has moved to San Francisco. The city has become a safe haven for mutants embracing diversity, as it always has. And I've got to be honest, I don't think I want to break Storm's heart and talk to her about the Chinese Exclusion Act. Or some of the other... Listen, I get what they're going for, but maybe not historically accurate."
That one also, I raised an eyebrow at. I get it that they want this place to be this, very progressive's home.
It's
but
2008. We understand why the X-Men are in San Francisco.
Yes.
That does not need to be elaborated upon.
Yes.
We get it.
But we don't need to say that history didn't happen. So Storm is returning from Wakanda, and the rest of the X-Men are setting up a rather elaborate stage show for Dazzler to perform some Christmas songs. This includes a Christmas tree, a giant menorah, there's gifts, there's Iceman is giving rides on his ice sled. And we're getting little cameos through all these panels of a variety of different X-Men characters. And it's kind of fun to play Where's Waldo here.
This is an excuse for Todd Knock to draw whatever he wants. Now, looking at this, there is a character that looks like she is either Madam Hydra or definitely just that's Madam Hydra. Like Viper?
Yeah, which panel are you looking at?
The big one where Iceman's giving everybody ice sled things. That's Madam Hydra. That's who that is.
Oh.
That's absolutely... Todd Knock just got a list of here's some mutants.
Yeah.
And grabbed Madam Hydra and drew her in here.
I like that. Why not? You know?
Well, mostly the Nazism.
I mean, if Todd Knock wants to... There's other weird things here.
That's a very Fox X-Men movies kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like...
Which I love.
People can we cram in here? But, it is nice to see Annalay and Dust and Rockslide and Danny and Beast and Nightcrawler's teleporting around. So, he's definitely doing a good job of trying to get as many X-Men in here as he can.
We do get Next Wave era Boom Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Putting a star up, which is cute.
Yep. And really, I mean, there's not a lot of content in this story. I guess the biggest emotional beat is, Colossus being upset about Kitty not being there and
Colossus is really upset that Kitty's dead.
Yeah. And hey, she will like it, it's not that she would have loved it. She will love it. And, he's still hopeful that I guess this is after she's been fired into space.
She's in the bullet. She's in the bullet right now.
She's in the bullet. So he is still hopeful.
Here's my issue with it.
Yeah.
Friggin' everyone knows Kitty's coming back. Like you and me and Colossus, everyone, like it is not a good emotionally resonant beat for the audience who knows Kitty's going to be back. It's why they took death off the table in Krakoa, because it wasn't effective stakes.
Yeah, so we do. I agree. I mean, it's not like there's high stakes here or anything. Like this ends with Dazzler just singing Christmas songs, everybody enjoying it, and like Dazzler's light is so bright it can be seen from space as she sings "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas" now. So it's sweet. It's not, there's nothing really here, it's just kind of like, hey, the X-Men are celebrating the holidays. There's nods to Hanukkah, there's nods to Kwanzaa. Great. Now, I think the more interesting one that does have a little other X-Men thing is this Santa versus the Illuminati story.
Is Santa versus the Illuminati by Brian Reed and Val Zemeckis a good comic? No, it is not.
No.
It's nonsense and it's terrible. And it's 2 pages, but it does have Doctor Strange saying, "I told you letting Santa Claus use the Infinity Gauntlet was a bad idea."
Yeah, you do have, the Illuminati of Doctor Strange, Black Bolt, Namor, Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, and Charles Xavier attacking a newly superpowered, even more than he already was, Santa Claus with the Infinity Gauntlet. This ends with a joke about Iron Man reindeer that say they're pre-programmed to need a drink, which I thought was funny and also distasteful.
This is just a weird goof that everyone's doing, and that's fine. It's just like it's Santa Claus versus the Illuminati does not live up to what you want that pitch to be.
No, it's very silly and it's not long.
It is not. It is wasted potential, and that is deeply sad. There's a Wando Ryan Panagos scroll story that I didn't read. It might be good. I didn't read it. And then there is also a 1-pager about Werewolf by Night called Werewolf by Eve.
That is pretty funny.
It is drawn by Stephanie Buscema,
mm-hmm.
who is Sal's granddaughter, who is just like, I'm on her website right now. She's just like this really good artist. She does tarot cards. She doesn't really do comics, but she's got like a cutesy, cartoony style, but it works really well. Like,
yeah,
Really
It's real.
talented.
It's a funny one pager. Werewolf by night is hanging out with his parents in human form, and then at the full moon comes out. He tears apart the living room, and then the Christmas morning, he's like shrugging back in human form. It's funny. It's great.
Yeah, so listen, if anyone is looking for a new deck of tarot cards with cutesy animal witches on it, Sabushema's granddaughter. She's got you covered.
Yeah, and I think that might be better than this particular collection of holiday stories.
Absolutely.
This one's not landing in the same way as some of the classics. We have Marvel Holiday Special 91 at 193. We have 94 at 422. And we have 2007's Marvel Holiday Special all the way down at 696.
2007. I don't remember anything about that 2007 one.
That was one where Spidey was trying to get the cake through I don't remember.
Something about Spider-Man
Something
and a
about
cake, but then there has to be an X-Men component to it, and was Wolverine, does Wolverine eat cake batter off his claws or something?
Yeah. Wolverine was involved in that story.
Something. Anyway, this is worse than that.
Yeah, I think so.
Is this better or worse than the Chuck the Truck X-Men 2 prequel Nightcrawler?
I would say it's slightly better only because this is fairly harmless, and that is actually trying to I don't know what that is. That's that seems harmful to the character. You know what I mean? It's not good.
I don't listen. That's not even the third most harmful thing, Chuck.
No, but
Nightcrawler.
I don't even want to say that this stuff is bad. It's just so kind of.
I'll say it's bad.
It's fluff.
It's nothing. It is.
Yeah.
It is the reason why people don't buy holiday comics, because by and large they are nothing and they are bad, and it is shocking when they put out good ones.
Yeah, when that Kibblesmith story was actually pretty good this year.
The X-Men story in the Marvel thing was great.
Yeah.
The Merry X-Men special that I think about every year. That's great. This is not great.
Then we got to move down the list, and
this is worse than the GL Xmas special #1, because the GL Xmas special #1 is probably the most important thing to giving us Squirrel Girl.
That's true.
She is today.
That's true.
Regardless of the quality of that specific comic, it gave us Squirrel Girl as she is today.
All right, I'm moving down into the 800s because I don't think this is even as good as the Spider-Man and the New Mutants PSA comic with Skids. But I do think this is better than, what did I pick out here? Oh, X-Men Unlimited 32 at 839, the Dazzler behind the music. This is better than that.
Fine. This is not better than the story about Wolverine's magic claw, crystal claw daughter.
All right, so this is our new 839.
Folks, Marvel... if you don't know, Wolverine has a magic daughter who has crystal claws and is part of a coven of witches that something stop a demon, something Wolverine.
Did you know 9/11. Zach, did you know that the new TVA comic that came out this past week features Jimmy Hudson as a major character? As a main character.
I'll be honest, Adam.
Yes.
No. Nothing in my life could make me want to read a TVA comic. There is so little that they could get me to do. And they've tried, because they put Pepe Larraz on the cover. And they have Pepe Perez on the... on the interiors. He's a solid artist, an underrated artist in the Marvel staple right now.
Hey, book looked pretty good, house style.
No, Adam, I barely read X-Men comics right now. You think I read TVA comics? My days of reading every Marvel comic that comes out are so long behind me. It is beautiful.
I just have to ask, because if you do want to see Jimmy Hudson dressed up in the same exact suit as Owen Wilson as Mobius, then you might want to just flip through it. It'll make you laugh.
Wait, no, because Owen Wilson's not being a character. He's being Mark Grunwald.
He's being Mobius.
Does Jimmy Hudson have a mustache?
No.
Then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You got so close, Marvel. If you would have just been like, hey, we're going to make Mark Grunwald have claws now, I'd be like, you have my attention. Because then you could... I'm not going to pitch a Mark Grunwald's Mobius comic.
No. But somebody did. We have one. We have
do it.
One more for you folks, and this is, we're going to back up a couple years. This is from 2004. This is the Marvel Holiday Special from 2004, and this particular story we're going to talk about is called X-Men Xmas, which it is wild that it took till 2004 to name a story X-Men Xmas, but here we are.
I mean, listen, you know that at some point they just get lazy with what they can name things. They'd be like, let's see, what's a word that has man in it that we could put in X? Manhunt. Okay, X-Manhunt. That's our new big event. Let's go.
No X-Man in X-Manhunt, unfortunately.
The amount of offense that this line of comics is putting on me personally is truly astonishing how much they want to slight me, Zachary, a guy who has an X-Men podcast.
Are you aware of the major character return that has been teased inside of this crossover, though?
I have become aware of it. I wish it was in a book I was enjoying more, but c'est la vie.
But Maggot is going to make an appearance. So
listen,
Maggot Hive, rise.
I'm here. This is the Hive. The Hive is me. The Hive is me and David Harper's friend. That's the Maggot Hive. It's me and David Harper's one friend. That's it. We are the Maggot Hive. We are the entire audience for this. And I love him. Karen Charm also loves Maggot.
I like Maggot. Come on now.
Okay, but you're not... How many framed pictures of Maggot do you own?
How many pictures of Maggot have you drawn?
How many of those pictures were drawn for me?
Okay, well, that... I don't know. Commission me, buddy. I don't draw for free.
No, Adam, I honestly... No, I'm laughing because I think the answer is actually kind of most of them.
Oh, maybe. Oh, is that true?
At least the zine cover, the Garfield one.
Oh, I forgot about the Garfield
I assume
one.
anytime... I'm going to be honest, Adam. I assume anytime you have drawn Maggot in the last decade, like at minimum, there's some influence of Zach who get a kick out of this.
That's true. All right. This particular story is written by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa and Roger Cruz on pencils, Victor Olazaba on inks. Cruz is kind of leaning more towards J. Scott Campbell than he was to Jim Lee in the 90s.
Jim Lee, are you talking about Joe Madureira?
Who? Roger Cruz?
Listen. Cruz is just going to swipe. No, I think he was doing Joe Mad in the 90s, and so did Joe Mad because he got really Joe Mad about it.
Oh well, Cruz is like he's all over the map in terms of who he's referencing.
I don't know if you know this. Do you know that Joe Mad got so mad at Roger Cruz in the 90s that he, in a X-Men comic on a piece of graffiti or something, he just in the background of one of his big double page spreads said "Cruz swipes." And that was the graffiti.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta go back and find that. That's fun.
Very funny. And also maybe explains a little bit about Roger Cruz's chameleon style.
The first page of this story introduces Bobby Drake, who is I gotta get your opinions on this as an HVAC professional. Basically, like coats the X mansion in ice and snow. That doesn't seem good for the heating bill.
So ice can actually be a pretty decent insulator.
Oh, okay. All right.
Here's your problem. There's twofold problem. One that you've kind of hit on is the cold. You are going to have infiltration loads. But if the ice, the ice is going to be roughly at ambient. So if you freeze the stuff at like 20 and it's negative or it's 0 outside, I mean, the ice isn't going to melt, and it will keep out some stuff. So I can see it as a barrier. The challenge, and this is the general Iceman challenge, is that ice doesn't stay ice forever, and
Mhm.
moisture loads are going to be very difficult. You won't. So my issues are ventilation and how do you manage the situation when the ice is gone. You
Mm.
need appropriate drainage. You're going to need an appropriate grade around that building to ensure that it doesn't seep down and cause some foundation damage, especially given the number of sub basements that they have.
Sure.
Uh, you're going to have to hope that their sump pumps are primed and running at full capacity. So,
I mean, we've
wouldn't
talked on this
recommend.
podcast before about Iceman water damage, and it's got to be sizable
It's
wherever he
just like
goes.
I
You
think
know?
about it sometimes because he's making those bridges everywhere. Iceman doesn't
Yeah.
appear in this story after this.
Well, that's what's funny. He's on the first page as if he's going to be the main character, and then he walks on panel in the second page, and then you don't see him again because the real star of this this short story is everybody's favorite X-Men character, Wither.
Wither. So we've said it before, and we'll say it again. And I'm so glad that culturally, there are people more popular than us who have convinced everybody that this is true. Culturally, I don't care for the new X-Men kids. This is
Mhm.
known.
Mhm.
This has been established canon on this podcast since early on. Wither's the worst. Like
Oh yeah.
even before he becomes bad, he was always giving incel vibes.
Yeah,
Now
it's hard to
he
get
has a
on
big. I want to
his
be clear.
side.
He has a better reason to be involuntarily celibate than other people, considering that's mostly because he'll murder you
Yeah.
if he
If he
touches you.
touches
So
you. Yeah.
I get it. He's
uh
supposed to go with this family like for the holidays, which I think is a weird program that the Xavier Institute is doing, just sending these mutant kids with a random family for the
Yeah,
holidays.
what is with them even going home for the holidays too? Because like to expect that the expectation here in this story is that every single kid who goes to the Xavier Institute gets to go home for the holidays, and in some cases with like foster
That's
families, so
that's
that
just not how an
Scott
international boarding school works.
no. And then Scott and Emma are going to go to some place called Pleasure Island, which they keep indicating is like for adults. And it's like, what are we talking about here, guys?
They
Like,
have it's it's a sexy adults only resort. They have those.
yeah,
I've
sure.
gotten the ads.
Yeah. It's an all inclusive, and they
It's an all
don't
inclusive.
want to have to bring Kevin because
Well, they can't.
yeah. So they have to,
Kevin, one of the worst guys to bring to an orgy is Wither.
and they're stuck with him. They have to cancel their vacation and make Christmas for Wither. And to their credit, they do a very nice job of trying to make it a nice Christmas for this utterly miserable child who looks like he's in his 30s because of the way that Roger Cruz draws
Does
him.
look like it. He looks like a fully grown adult man, which is wild.
Yeah.
Oh, Wither. And here's the thing. This is 2004.
Mhm.
I was around in 2004. I
Yeah.
also listened to Hawthorne Heights. I went to a Hawthorne Heights concert this year. So I get it. But he is giving off like, cut my wrist and black my eyes vibes the entire time.
Mhm.
And I can't stand him. Like, he's just the worst. And then, in what is framed as a beautiful moment of kindness and her heart going out to this child, but in reality is pretty weird.
Oh, yeah.
Emma Frost, his adult teacher,
Mhm.
says, well, I know you can't touch people, and that sucks, but I'm going to turn into diamonds, and maybe you can disintegrate diamonds, but it'll take a while, so you can probably hold my hand. Which, couple of things on that. One, really something you better test out on an actual diamond first. Like, Emma, you're gambling here.
Oh, yeah.
Two, this is deeply inappropriate.
Yeah.
And I know it's supposed to be like a emotional, supportive, like I hug my family kind of thing.
Mhm.
But in generally, it's a man and a woman who were going to a swingers club for Christmas, sitting on their couch with an adult looking student of theirs, and she's holding his hand. And this is Emma Frost, who at minimum heavily sexualized at all times.
Yes.
Like just is. Like that's just Emma.
Yeah, the scenes that lead up to this, where they, go into New York, they go to FAO Shorts, they go ice skating, they go to the movies, they pick out a Christmas tree, and they're trying everything they can to cheer him up. And honestly, he is actually cheered up by some of this stuff. The scene where she offers to like hold his hand, it's just creepy. It's creepy.
So it's just a weird vibe.
It's very strange. Yeah.
It's one of those where I get exactly what they were going for.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I am reading something else into this than the comic wants me to.
It's still there. It's still there.
Yeah, like that's one where Ralph Macchio, the editor of this comic, was kind of sleeping on the job.
Well,
he should have been like, y'all.
Yeah.
No, like this scans weird. Find a different way to get this same impact. It's not going to hit the way you want it to.
Well, Macchio also dropped the ball in that he allowed Cyclops to start a fire with his optic blasts, and we know that they don't work that way.
Want me to say a controversial opinion that's even more controversial than my opinion on the new X-Men children?
You think Cyclops should be allowed to start fire with his optic blasts?
I don't care. I don't.
Drives me nuts.
Enough time has passed, and there are enough cases where someone has messed this up that at a certain point, if someone doesn't know the pedantry of man with laser eyes doesn't make heat, he makes punches with his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna blame them. That's thinking too much about these comics. Also, you put enough friction on stuff, you're gonna get some heat.
I guess.
So
I don't know. Maybe there's a way that this works.
There is. I can draw you a force diagram if we really want, but in general, people just think he has heat vision because Superman has heat vision and Cyclops has one of Superman's powers. That's it. It's not complicated. That's the only reason.
I still don't like it.
You're allowed to not like it. I've just moved on.
There's a very long Jonah Jameson story here where he does A Christmas Carol, and there's also
did not read it. Was too long.
Yeah, there's also a Franklin story involving Herbie and
did not read it. Involved Herbie.
For Emma Frost fans who are fans of For the Children, I could see why this is trying to go in the right direction, but I agree that the ending just kind of makes it a little too creepy. So
I just don't know if you wanted this from Emma, why you wouldn't read the Generation X stories.
Yeah. There's better versions of this.
There's so many better versions of this. It's not good. Now,
there's more substance here than the other digital holiday special we talked about, though. So I do think
there is more substance. Yeah, that's the trick. There is more substance.
Yeah,
I don't love the substance, but there is more of it.
Mm-hmm. Is this better or worse than the first 6 issues of Emma Frost at 818?
Okay, yeah, same. It's the same.
Okay,
I have the same feelings.
Yeah. And I know you like Kings of Pain at 817.
I really do like those covers. Those covers are sick.
This is better or worse than X-Men Green at 821.
This is better than X-Men Green.
All right,
well,
so,
hold on.
Huh? Is it?
No, X-Men Green's very long.
Yeah, it is.
There are parts of X-Men Green that are better.
Yeah.
But this is a couple of pages. This is worse than X-23 Innocence Lost, a comic I don't enjoy, but is better at what it tries to do. So I would put this at 821.
That seems like a great spot for it. This is the Marvel Holiday Special from 2004, which you might know from the Mark Bagley Spider-Man cover, which has been reused every year in Marvel promotional materials since.
Hey, it turns out Mark Bagley knows how to draw Spider-Man, and if he needs to draw Spider-Man with a hat on, a Santa Man hat, he can do that. And good for Mark.
Yeah. All right. Well, we managed to, dredge up another couple of Christmas holiday stories for the X-Men.
Fates did allow us to do that.
We'll see how many more of these we can dig up in the coming years.
I mean, look, folks, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah,
If you got Christmas stories, you can just send them to us.
sure.
We'll put them on the list somewhere.
Yeah.
We're running low on those, and I don't want to search.
Mhm.
Now, here is the addendum to that.
Yeah.
Take a look. If we've already covered it first, do a quick Google. Do a quick.
'Cause we've done
there's a
most
list.
of
It's
that.
linked. It's linked. Like, I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, if you remember, there's the time the X-Men went to space and then the Phoenix came. No, we know.
Mhm.
We know. And we also know about the time they did that in Marvels, where they just copied that. And then we know about the time where they did that, and then also Santa Claus was a mutant. And it's just, we know a lot of them.
Yeah.
And we're running so thin. And I
Good
don't
thing we
want to
only
read.
do this one once a year. You know what I mean?
I don't want to read 2000s holiday specials for the rest of my life. Eventually, we're just going to be like, and this story has snow in it.
I love that idea.
I dread it. Adam, no joke. I dreaded reading all of the comics for this episode until today.
Okay.
Like, I read them this afternoon. To be
Well-
clear, we were supposed to record this a week ago, and I
That is
messed
true.
up on my dates. So
It's all good.
that's how long I've been putting this off.
Well, it is the end of the year. And, like you said earlier, I think we just owe a big thank you to all of our patrons. Thanks for being with us. And, here's to, we're still on the road to 1,000.
We're on the road to 1,000. I can see the big you are here now, like, welcome to Ohio sign.
Yeah. But this is not the end of the year. We actually do still have one more episode to squeeze in. Folks, you can always follow me on the show, essentially, on Blue Sky and Instagram at Adam Reck. Zach, what is this last episode that we are trying to get in before the end of the year?
Weird Magneto stuff.
Ooh.
We're just
Fun.
doing some stuff where Magneto's a little twisted, a little weird. It's some stuff that you wouldn't normally expect from Magneto. It's just, here's the honest truth. Me and Adam were flipping around Spanish language comics in
Yes.
in the alleys of New York Comic Con,
Mhm.
and no, it wasn't. This was before we went to the Spanish language section. This is when we were looking at original art, and we found a comic about Magneto and his yoga powers, and I had to find a way to make that into the podcast. And beautifully, we're going to talk about Magneto's yoga powers.
Yeah.
Much like Lord Deathman from the Bat manga, Magneto also has yoga powers. I will make that joke again next week. I promise you. Like, I will forget that I've said this now, but future me will be like, yeah, like Lord Deathman.
Love it. Keep it coming.
I've downloaded enough Chris Sims content to, like, know that that's a thing, even though I've not read the Bat manga. I probably should. I would enjoy it. Adam.
Hi.
Until then, this has been Battle of the Atom, and I hope you personally survive the experience and many more.
Get it!